In this true crime documentary, we uncover the twisted case of Josephine Jimenez.
The next morning, my wife noticed Josephine wasn't there. That's when her nightmare began.
Just that he buried her halfway with her face down in the dirt. I wanted to see her. And they told me that they wouldn't let me because she was so decomposed. I feel like I really didn't even get to say goodbye. I still haven't. So I made myself numb to everything. And I'm sorry.
Our story today takes us to the quiet city of Madera, a small, peaceful town nestled in the heart of California. Surrounded by endless fields of crops and the almond trees the region is famous for. Life here moves at a slow and friendly pace. The city carries a warm, family-oriented spirit, far from the chaos of big cities like Los Angeles or San Francisco. But like many quiet towns behind that calm surface lies a darkness no one ever imagined. In this town lived the Jimenez family, the father Raymond, the mother Maria, and their 6 children. Among them was Josephine. Josephine Jimenez was 16 years old, a junior at Madera High School, and she was well liked by everyone who knew her, always smiling and full of dreams, far bigger than her age. She wanted to join the U.S. Army after graduation, to see the world and help others. She trained regularly, attending fitness classes to make sure she was ready, because her goal was clear: to serve her country, and one day, work in the military medical field. At home, Josephine was the heart of the family. She helped her mother with everything and kept everyone smiling with her cheerful spirit. Her life wasn't perfect, but it was filled with hope. In Madera, safety was something people took for granted. No one could have imagined that this bright, ambitious girl would soon become the center of a tragedy that would shake the entire state of California. On the morning of October 14, 2019, Maria Jimenez began her usual routine, making sure her 6 children were awake and getting ready for school. As the bedroom doors opened and the kids came down for breakfast, she noticed something was wrong. One of them was missing. Her 16-year-old daughter Josephine wasn't there. At first, Maria thought she was still asleep, so she went to wake her up and tell her to hurry before she was late. But the moment she walked into the room, her heart stopped. Josephine wasn't in bed, and the sheets were untouched. The first thing Maria did was call her husband Raymond, who was already at work, but he didn't know where Josephine was either. He told her that when he left the house that morning, everyone was still asleep and everything was quiet. They both tried not to panic, but that became impossible as time passed, and every logical explanation disappeared. Josephine hadn't gone to school early. She wasn't with relatives, and when they called her friends, everyone said the same thing. They hadn't seen her or heard from her. That's when the parents decided to call the police. Because of Josephine's age, her disappearance was taken seriously. Patrol units were sent to the Jimenez home. When officers arrived, Raymond and Maria told them the last time they saw Josephine was the night before, just after 8 p.m., when everyone was getting ready for bed. She seemed completely normal, and there was nothing unusual about her behavior. They had no reason to believe she was planning to leave the house. But when police began checking the room, their doubts grew. The bed hadn't been slept in, and there were no signs of forced entry or struggle anywhere in the house. In other words, no one forced Josephine to leave. Wherever she went, she left on her own. Yet there was every reason to worry. Her parents insisted she had never done anything like this before. It was not in her nature to skip school or run away. Police believed them and filed an official missing person report. But they had very little to go on. Josephine had a phone, but it didn't have a SIM card. Alerts went out to local media, but no solid leads came in. Desperate to keep attention on her case, the Jimenez family did everything they could. They printed flyers, organized volunteer searches, and begged for any information. Days passed painfully with no progress until investigators began interviewing Josephine's friends. Most of them claimed they knew nothing, but detectives were convinced 2 people in particular weren't telling the full truth. Their answers were too short, too rehearsed. While police continued their search, a worker in a nearby almond field contacted them saying he had found a partially buried body on the edge of his property. When investigators arrived, the scene was haunting. The remains belonged to a young woman lying face down, buried halfway in the dirt. It was immediately clear she hadn't ended up there by accident. She had been murdered. Because of the condition of the body Visual identification wasn't possible, but the investigators knew it had been there for several days. One of them remembered a missing girl case from just a few miles away. 7, maybe 8, and the details started to connect. When the body was carefully lifted from the dirt, police noticed a braided silver necklace and a black shirt with the word Queen written across it. The exact outfit Josephine had been wearing the night she vanished. 2 days later, dental records confirmed what everyone feared. It was Josephine Jimenez. The level of decomposition made it nearly impossible to determine an exact cause of death. But the medical examiner noted bruising and suspected that Josephine had died from strangulation or suffocation. Frustration grew as the crime scene revealed very little. There were no signs of a fight, no blood, no DNA in the area. Still, police found a few small clues. Tire tracks near the site suggested the killer had driven there to dispose of her body. The marks showed the vehicle had made a 3-point turn, meaning whoever did this came specifically to bury her, and the murder likely happened somewhere else. The burial itself seemed rushed and sloppy, and it was far too close to the main road. That told investigators the killer might have been panicked or felt watched and left before finishing. If they had really wanted to hide the body, there were much better spots near the river or deeper in the orchard. The theory made sense, but it didn't bring them any closer to finding who killed Josephine or why her promising young life ended in such a tragic way.
A story that we brought you first through our app. A Madera family is devastated tonight after a missing teen turns up dead in a field. The Madera County Sheriff's Office found 16-year-old Josephine Jimenez on Tuesday, October 22nd. But Jimenez had already been missing for about a week. Authorities now calling her death suspicious. KC24's Kaylee Hunt spoke with her parents.
After a week of not knowing where their daughter, Josephine Jimenez, was, her parents finally have some answers when the Madera County Sheriff's Department positively identified a body found in the field as their daughter. I'm told Josephine was a junior at Madera High School, and the whole school, along with the whole city of Madera, is mourning her loss.
She's our baby. I don't wish this upon any parent.
Raymond Jimenez and his wife Maria last saw their 16-year-old daughter, Josephine, on October 13th, wishing her good night.
Her intention was to be at school Monday. So when she left that Sunday, her intentions were to come back home. Her intentions were not to go out and not come back.
Raymond says he reported his daughter missing the next day. She'd be found a week later in a field in Madera County. The sheriff's office is calling it suspicious.
Based on the condition of the body, we weren't able to do a visual identification, and we're able to yesterday do a positive identification through dental records.
Madera County Sheriff Jay Varney says this case is shaking the community.
So to find one like this where someone with very little or no runaway history ends up deceased, it's very unusual.
Now Josephine's family wants answers. They believe someone knows what happened and wants them to speak up.
If this would have happened to you or your child, you would want help. You would want somebody to come out and speak. No one's going to call you a rat or a tattletale or anything like that. You'll be doing the right thing.
I'm told this investigation is still ongoing. However, Josephine's classmates are in the works to putting together a vigil. Reporting from Madera High School, Kaylee Hunt, KC24, local news that matters.
After the vigil, the entire town was wrapped in grief and anger. Everyone was devastated by the loss of a girl they truly loved. But beneath the sadness, there was another emotion slowly rising to the surface: shame. The next morning, while detectives at the homicide division were still trying to untangle a case with no phone data, no DNA, and no witnesses to the person who tried to bury Josephine's body, something unexpected happened. Josephine's closest friend, the same girl detectives had already suspected during the search for her, walked into the station in tears. She was trembling, barely breathing, and begged to speak to the investigators right away. What she said next would change everything. She told them that on the night Josephine disappeared, they were on a video call together, and Josephine was acting strangely. She said she was getting ready for something, but she was vague, almost secretive about what it was. Her tone made her friend uneasy. She tried to talk her out of whatever she was planning, but Josephine insisted she was fine. She said she wasn't entirely sure what she was about to do, but she felt she had to do it. And before hanging up, she told her friend not to worry because she had everything under control. The detectives couldn't understand what the girl meant until she explained that Josephine was planning to meet one of the family's friends. She said that while they were talking, she took 2 screenshots because something about Josephine's behavior made her nervous. She felt that night wasn't going to be normal. She showed the detectives the screenshots. The first was a clear image of Josephine confirming exactly what she had been wearing that night, the same clothes she was found in later. The second image showed part of a car, only the lower half visible, but enough to see it was silver or gray. What detectives couldn't ignore was the timing. Why hadn't she said anything before? Why didn't she tell Josephine's parents? Why didn't she tell the officers who questioned her days earlier? And why now, after Josephine was gone? Her answer was strange, but understandable. She was only 15. She said she thought Josephine was just going to hang out with that man for a while and come back home, and she didn't want to get her friend in trouble. Detectives couldn't determine the exact make or model of the car, but they were sure about one thing. That car belonged to Josephine's killer. They began searching for any family friend who drove a silver vehicle, but nothing came up. Then just when they were running out of leads, another friend of Josephine came forward with information that would shift the investigation again. He told them that on the day Josephine disappeared, she had spent time with a guy named Taylor, the same person police already suspected of hiding something. And if that wasn't enough, Taylor made himself look even worse. Just hours after the discovery of Josephine's body, he posted on Facebook asking if anyone knew a good lawyer. That was enough for police to keep a close eye on him. But the first shock came when they learned Taylor's car wasn't silver. It was bright orange. That detail threw them off, but they decided to bring him in anyway. When questioned, Taylor admitted he had spent the day with Josephine. He said they went to a local supermarket, parked for a while, then drove around the city before he dropped her off at home and went back to his place. Detectives reviewed surveillance cameras, and to their surprise, everything Taylor said matched perfectly. It looked like they might have suspected the wrong person. But the following day, another friend told police that he, Taylor, and Taylor's cousin had been driving around together that night, and that Taylor hadn't been in his own car. When detectives went to see the cousin, they found his vehicle a silver one, matching the exact description from the screenshot Josephine's friend had taken. Detectives decided not to confront Taylor yet. Instead, they noted the license plate and began tracking the car's movements. The data revealed two key moments. Around 9:30 p.m., just minutes before Josephine vanished, the cousin's car was seen heading toward her neighborhood. About 3 hours later, that same car was recorded on a road near the southern border of the county, only a few miles from where Josephine's body was found. With danger signs mounting, police brought Taylor in for a second interrogation. Confronted with all the new evidence, he still maintained his innocence. He said he hadn't meant to lie or withhold anything, he had simply forgotten the details. Both he and his cousin claimed they were just out driving for fun that night and had never met or seen Josephine. When detectives pressed him about whether there was anything romantic between them, Taylor said no. He told them he was interested in the opposite gender and that Josephine was openly gay. All her friends knew she liked girls, and he only saw her as a close friend. At that point, detectives built their theory. They believed Taylor had tried to start something with Josephine, and when she rejected him, he killed her. But what they didn't know, what no one could have predicted, was that Taylor had been telling the truth the entire time. Every strange coincidence, every suspicious detail was exactly that, a coincidence so bizarre it almost defied logic. Because right then, the homicide unit received a call from a federal agent with the United States Naval Criminal Investigative Service. He said they had uncovered information about Josephine's real killer while investigating an entirely different case. And what he was about to reveal would turn the investigation upside down. The special agent said they were stationed at Camp Pendleton, one of the largest United States Marine Corps bases, and that they had been investigating one of their own for a series of disturbing and complex crimes. It all began in October, the very same month Josephine was killed. Two female Marines living in base housing came forward with a chilling complaint. Both said their bags containing personal items had been stolen from their rooms. Soon after, they started receiving messages from an unknown number demanding explicit photos in exchange for the return of their belongings. When one of the women made the mistake of responding, things escalated fast. A handwritten threat appeared taped to her door, warning her not to report it. Followed by more messages, each more disturbing than the last. The sender gave her two options, either send the photos he wanted or meet him in person for sex. If she refused, he threatened to sell her social security card and birth certificate. As NCIS began their investigation, they quickly located the stolen property. The women's bags were found inside a car belonging to a 19-year-old Marine named Cody Slayton. But that discovery was only the beginning. When agents examined his phone and other devices, they realized those two women were just a fraction of his victims. For over a year, Cody had been running a sick pattern of online sexual extortion. In most cases, he got exactly what he wanted. He used different tactics to manipulate his victims, sometimes pretending to be a friend, other times stealing their personal data through deception. But it always ended the same way, with threats and anonymous messages, demanding explicit photos or videos to feed his twisted desires. And when that wasn't enough, he escalated the cruelty. If a victim refused, he would threaten to post everything he had on social media and send it to their friends and families. And these weren't empty threats. Court records showed he had actually done it to at least 2 of his victims. Most of the women he targeted were people he personally knew, but the worst was still to come. Some of Cody's victims were underage, and that's where Josephine comes in. Among the hundreds of disturbing files found on Cody's devices were photos and videos of Josephine Jimenez. When the Madera County Sheriff's Office received this information, they began verifying every detail themselves. What they found was devastating. Cody Slayton hadn't been on base at Camp Pendleton the night Josephine was killed. He was on leave staying in the Madera area, and he was driving a silver Ford Fusion matching the exact color and shape of the car seen in the screenshot. When investigators checked license plate readers, just as they had done with Taylor's cousin's car, new evidence surfaced. At 9:15 p.m. on October 13th, Cody's vehicle was near Josephine's home. By 9:56 p.m., it was recorded in the parking lot of the same Wingstop restaurant her friends had mentioned earlier. Suddenly, everything clicked. All the evidence that seemed to point toward Taylor was nothing more than a tragic chain of coincidences. He had been with his cousin that night, just as he said, and he never saw Josephine. He was completely innocent. Any lingering doubt vanished when Madera County investigators finally sat down with Cody Slayton. When asked if he had been with Josephine the night she died, he didn't deny it. In fact, he admitted to much more than anyone expected.
So you saw her what day?
I believe it was Sunday. She had texted me, asking if I want to go get something to eat. We were going to go to Wingstop. Dude, like, we got there, she changed her mind. We went to the vineyards. Nobody really uses that road anyway.
You guys are gonna hook up?
Yeah. We hooked up in the back of my car. And then I took her home.
We have a lot of consistent stuff that indicates exactly what happened. The way we fix it is we're honest about it. You know, honor, courage, commitment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know that something went bad. Something that was not supposed to go wrong went wrong. You need to dig deep in there, dude.
At that moment, Cody asked for time to think. 2 days later, Cody Slayton walked back into the Madera County Sheriff's Office on his own.
I was sleeping with her, but like, she wanted to be like rough, and it went like a little too far. Then eventually I kind of like felt a pop. I didn't know if she was like breathing or she wasn't, but she had stopped, and then she kind of like gurgled. I was trying to think, but my mind was so clouded. I didn't know what to do at that point. I took her out of the car and kept on trying to bury her. It just took like a lot longer than what I thought.
After that confession, prosecutors moved fast. Cody Slayton was officially charged with first-degree murder, along with multiple counts related to sexual extortion and possession of explicit material involving minors.
For a former Marine being held on a murder charge in Madera now has jumped to $5 million. 19-year-old Cody Slayton was turned over to the Madera Sheriff's Department yesterday in the death of 16-year-old Josephine Jimenez, who was found dead in an orchard in October. She was a student at Madera High at the time. Our Karen Bright joining us with new developments in the case.
When Cody Slayton was booked into jail late Thursday, his bail was set at $1 million. Tonight, it's up to $5 million, and for the first time since his arrest, we heard from Josephine's family. A day after a suspect was arrested for the death of 16-year-old Josephine Jimenez of Madera, her parents released a statement. The Jimenez family wants to thank federal authorities, local authorities, and Madera County Sheriff's Office detectives for their hard work in the capture of the person responsible for Josephine's death. We are still mourning the loss of our daughter Josephine and look forward to justice for Josephine. Josephine and her accused killer, Cody Slayton, both went to Madera High, and authorities believe the two knew each other while Slayton lived in Madera. The 19-year-old was arrested in Oceanside near San Diego by NCIS on an unrelated investigation.
Based on the investigation that NCIS is involved in, this seems to be something more along the line of online predator.
The Madera Sheriff's Office says evidence uncovered shows Slayton may have used social media to gain and maintain contact with Jimenez and possibly other girls in California.
So my guess is somehow he had a method to contact her, as most predators do, struck up some sort of conversation, and then the resulting crime occurred at some point after that.
Then came the twist no one expected. After his shocking confession, Cody Slayton entered a plea of not guilty. The move stunned everyone in the courtroom. His defense claimed that his earlier statements were made under emotional pressure and should not be considered a full admission of guilt. But just weeks later, Cody changed his plea. This time he stood before the judge and pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. It was part of a plea deal that reduced his sentence dramatically. Instead of facing life in prison without parole, Cody Slayton received a 15-year sentence.
Cody Slayton has been sentenced to 15 years to life in prison for the 2019 murder of 16-year-old Josephine Jimenez.
Well, Warren Graciela, in addition to sentencing him to 15 years to life in prison, the judge also ordered Slayton to register as a sex offender. Today in court, family members described Josephine as an angel and say she wanted to join the military. And while it took nearly 4 years, the prosecuting attorney says the family can now finally say they have justice for Josephine.
Second-degree murder, court imposes 15 years to life in state prison.
Ex-Marine Cody Slayton pleaded guilty to the crime earlier this year and had one of the few dry eyes in the courtroom. He was not only sentenced for second-degree murder, but also,
based on the circumstances of this crime, he also he's going to have to register as a sex offender for the rest of his life.
After the verdict, Josephine's family was in complete shock. They felt as if they had been deceived twice. The first time was when Cody attended the vigil and was the very first person to light a candle, acting heartbroken and devastated, as if he truly cared. The second was when he was sentenced to only 15 years in prison. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more true crime documentaries. See you in the next video.